Imagine walking down the street and seeing a stray dog that looks exactly like your own puppy. What would you do? For one pet owner, this wasn't just a coincidence. It was the beginning of a story so unbelievable, it left everyone speechless. What started as a simple act of kindness turned into a shocking discovery that no one saw coming. Stick around, because this story will leave you in tears and maybe even make you believe in fate. We all love our pets, don't we? They're not just animals, they're family. And when it comes to family, we do anything to keep them safe and happy. But what happens when life throws you a curveball so unexpected? It changes everything you thought you knew. That's exactly what happened to Sarah, a young woman who thought she was just rescuing a stray dog. Little did she know, this act of kindness would lead to a revelation so shocking, it would leave her and everyone who heard the story completely stunned. Sarah had always believed that dogs weren't just pets, they were family. And Max was her heart, a golden retriever with a playful spirit and eyes full of warmth. He had filled Sarah's life with joy since the day she brought him home. Every morning, he'd wake her up with a nuzzle, and every night, he'd curl up beside her, as if ensuring she was safe. They shared everything. Morning walks bathed in golden sunlight, rainy afternoons spent cuddled under a blanket, and even their guilty pleasure, tiny scoops of dog-friendly vanilla ice cream. But life has a way of throwing surprises when you least expect them. One chilly evening, as Sarah walked down her usual route with Max trotting beside her, she noticed a rustling noise near a trash can. At first, it seemed ordinary, just another stray looking for food. But when she turned her head, her breath caught in her throat. She froze. A golden retriever, identical to Max, stood there, rummaging through the garbage. Same golden coat, same floppy ears, even the same small white patch on its chest. For a split second, her heart skipped a beat. Had Max somehow slipped away from her side? But no, a glance down confirmed that Max was right there, tail wagging, looking just as confused as she was. Sarah's heart clenched. The stray lifted its head, meeting her gaze with deep, weary eyes. There was something about them, something hauntingly familiar, yet devastatingly sad. He wasn't just looking at her, he was pleading. The cold evening air suddenly felt heavier. Slowly, she stepped forward. "Hey, buddy." Her voice was soft, uncertain. The dog flinched but didn't run. He was skinnier than Max, his ribs slightly visible beneath his unkempt fur. He smelled of dirt and loneliness, a stark contrast to the warmth Max had always known. Max, usually playful with other dogs, stood still, his ears perked, his eyes locked onto the stray. There was no barking, no growling, just a quiet understanding between them, as if something deep inside them recognized the other. Sarah felt an invisible pull toward this dog, a feeling she couldn't quite explain. She knew she couldn't just walk away. Kneeling down, she extended a hand. "It's okay, boy. I won't hurt you." For a moment, the stray hesitated, his body tensed, torn between fear and hope. Then, as if surrendering to fate, he took a cautious step forward, then another. Before she knew it, his cold, wet nose pressed against her palm. Sarah felt a lump rise in her throat. He wasn't just any stray. He was meant to be here. Brushing her fingers through his tangled fur, she whispered, "You're coming home with us." She named him Buddy that night. At first, she thought she was just giving a lost dog a temporary shelter. But as the days passed, something strange began to happen. Buddy didn't just look like Max. He acted like him. The way he tilted his head when she spoke, the way his ears perked up at certain words, even the way he curled up beside her at night, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. It sent chills down her spine. Max and Buddy were strangers, and yet they weren't. A terrifying thought crept into Sarah's mind, making her heart pound against her ribs. Could it be possible? Had fate just led her to Max's long-lost brother? She had to know the truth, and nothing would stop her from finding it. Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to Buddy's sudden appearance. The way he mirrored Max's mannerisms, the way he seemed to feel at home, as if he had always belonged there. It was all too much to ignore. She had to find answers. The first logical step, a visit to the vet. Sarah bundled Buddy into her car, with Max sitting in the back seat, his tail wagging excitedly. Buddy, however, was more reserved. He sat still, his deep brown eyes darting around nervously, unsure of what was happening. "Don't worry, boy," she murmured, reaching back to stroke his fur as she drove. "We're gonna figure this out." The vet's office smelled of antiseptic and fur, a familiar yet oddly comforting scent. As they stepped inside, Max trotted in confidently, but Buddy hesitated, his paws frozen just before the threshold. Sarah had to gently coax him forward. Dr. Miller, their trusted vet, greeted them with a warm smile. "And who's this new friend?" Sarah sighed. "That's what I'm trying to figure out." She explained the bizarre coincidence, how Buddy looked and acted just like Max. Dr. Miller nodded thoughtfully, running a gentle hand over Buddy's back before reaching for the microchip scanner. Sarah held her breath as the scanner beeped softly over Buddy's shoulder blades. "Silence." Dr. Miller shook his head. "No microchip." Sarah exhaled, both relieved and disappointed. She had hoped for an immediate answer, but this only deepened the mystery. Then came the next surprise. "Buddy's about the same age as Max," Dr. Miller said, frowning slightly as he examined Buddy's teeth and overall health. "In fact, I'd say they're nearly identical in age, probably from the same litter." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. Same age, same appearance, same mannerisms. It couldn't be, could it? Dr. Miller continued. "Buddy's a bit underweight, but otherwise he seems healthy. He must have been fending for himself for a while, but the fact that he's in decent shape suggests he might not have been a stray for too long." Sarah's mind whirled. If Buddy hadn't been a stray all his life, where had he come from? And why did he end up on her street? Determined to uncover the truth, Sarah took to social media. She snapped pictures of Buddy and Max sitting side by side, an uncanny reflection of one another. The resemblance was eerie. She captioned the post, "Found this stray. He looks exactly like my dog Max. Does anyone recognize him?" She posted it in multiple lost and found pet groups, hoping someone somewhere would have an answer. The response was overwhelming. Comments flooded in, people marveling at the uncanny resemblance. Some suggested they might be long-lost brothers. Others told heartwarming stories of pets being reunited against the odds. But there was one glaring issue. No one recognized Buddy. No one had reported a missing golden retriever that matched his description. No owner came forward. It was as if Buddy had appeared out of nowhere. Sarah sat on her couch that evening, scrolling through the countless comments when a thought hit her. Max's breeder. She had gotten Max from a reputable breeder nearly a year ago. If Buddy was truly Max's brother, the breeder might have some answers. Her fingers trembled as she dialed the number. It rang twice before a familiar voice answered. "Sarah, how's Max doing?" "He's doing great," she replied quickly. "But I actually have a strange question." She hesitated before launching into the story, explaining how she had found Buddy and how eerily similar he was to Max. The line went silent for a moment. Then the breeder inhaled sharply. "Sarah, are you serious?" Sarah's stomach twisted. "Yes." "Why?" The breeder's voice was laced with something between disbelief and excitement. "One of our puppies was stolen." Sarah's heart stopped. "What?" The breeder explained that months ago, their facility had been broken into. One puppy had been taken, a golden retriever from Max's litter. They had searched everywhere, posted flyers, even involved the authorities, but there had been no leads. They had assumed the worst, that the puppy had been sold or abandoned. Sarah could barely breathe. What if Buddy is that stolen puppy?" she whispered. The breeder hesitated. "There's only one way to know for sure. We have records. Buddy should have a unique marking on his belly, a small crescent-shaped birthmark." Sarah's fingers trembled as she gently lifted Buddy's fur, and there it was, a tiny, crescent-shaped mark. Her vision blurred with tears. "Buddy isn't just any stray," she whispered. "He's Max's brother." The realization hit her like a tidal wave. Fate hadn't just brought Buddy into her life. It had reunited two souls that were never meant to be apart. Sarah had expected Max and Buddy to get along, but nothing prepared her for what happened next. The moment she truly knew they were brothers wasn't during their playtime or their synchronized tail wags. It was at night. Max had always slept at the foot of Sarah's bed, curled into a ball. But that night, Buddy followed. Sarah watched, holding her breath as Buddy hesitated for a moment. Then, without any hesitation, he curled up right next to Max. Not beside him, not near him, against him, like he had always done it, like it was second nature. Max didn't flinch. He didn't growl or shift away. Instead, he sighed contentedly and rested his head against Buddy's. Sarah's chest ached. Somewhere deep in their bones, they knew. They had spent months, possibly a whole year apart, but that moment proved it. They remembered each other. They had been waiting their whole lives to be together again. The breeder offered to take Buddy back if Sarah wasn't in a position to keep him, but she didn't even have to think twice. "No," she said firmly, her voice thick with emotion. "Buddy belongs here, with us, with Max." And just like that, Buddy wasn't a stray anymore. He was home. The days that followed were nothing short of magical. The two brothers did everything together, eating, playing, even learning from each other. Buddy had been hesitant at first, but with Max by his side, he learned how to be a part of a family again. And Sarah, she had never believed in fate before, but after witnessing two souls, separated by tragedy, find their way back to each other in the most impossible way, she did now. Buddy had been with Sarah and Max for weeks now, and their bond had only grown stronger. It was as if Buddy had always belonged there, as if life had simply hit pause on their time together and was now making up for lost moments. But despite everything, the identical looks, the synchronized behaviors, the unbreakable bond, Sarah couldn't shake one thought. What if she was wrong? What if this was all just a coincidence? That doubt gnawed at her, lingering in the back of her mind. She wanted to believe that Max and Buddy were truly brothers, that fate had somehow woven their paths back together. But believing wasn't enough. She needed proof. Sarah sat on her couch, staring at the computer screen. She had been researching dog DNA testing kits for hours, reading reviews, comparing services. She wanted the most accurate test available. Finally, she settled on one, clicked order, and exhaled. "This is it," she murmured, glancing down at Max and Buddy, who were sprawled out on the floor, their tails thumping in unison. "We're going to find out the truth." When the kit arrived a few days later, Sarah wasted no time. She carefully swabbed the inside of both Max and Buddy's cheeks, following the instructions to the letter. Buddy was a little hesitant, unsure of what was happening, but Max wagged his tail, licking Sarah's hand as if to say, "I trust you." She sealed the samples, placed them in the prepaid envelope, and dropped them in the mailbox. Now, all she could do was wait. The company had promised results within 2 weeks, but each day felt like an eternity. Every morning, Sarah checked her email with nervous anticipation, only to sigh when there was no update. She tried to keep herself busy. She took Max and Buddy on extra long walks, hoping the fresh air would calm her restless mind. She played fetch with them at the park, laughing as they competed to see who could retrieve the ball first. She even started journaling about the experience, pouring her thoughts onto paper. But still, the question haunted her. What if Buddy wasn't Max's brother? Would it change anything? Would she love him any less? The answer was no. Buddy was family now. No test result could change that. But deep down, she still hoped. On the 14th day, just as Sarah was about to give up on obsessively checking her email, she saw it. Subject: "Your DNA test results are ready." Her heart pounded. Her hands trembled as she clicked the email open. She skimmed through the introduction, her eyes desperately searching for the answer. And then, she saw it. Match. 100% identical DNA. Sarah's breath caught. She read it again. 100%. Not 50%. Not 80%. 100%. Max and Buddy weren't just brothers. They were identical twins. Sarah's hands flew to her mouth as a choked sob escaped her lips. Tears blurred her vision as she stared at the words, her brain struggling to process the reality of it. This wasn't just a heartwarming coincidence. This was fate. Buddy hadn't just wandered into her life. He hadn't just happened to show up on the street that day. He had been searching for Max, and Max had been waiting for him. Sarah looked over at Max and Buddy, who were curled up together on the couch, oblivious to the emotional storm raging inside her. "You're really brothers," she whispered. "You were never meant to be apart." She stood up on shaky legs and walked toward them. Max lifted his head first, sensing her emotions before she even spoke. He tilted his head, those deep, soulful eyes filled with curiosity. Buddy followed, his gaze soft, questioning. Sarah knelt beside them, her tears falling freely now. She reached out, running her fingers through their golden fur. "I know now," she whispered. "You're twins." Max let out a soft whine, nudging her hand with his nose. Buddy followed, pressing his head against her shoulder, as if he understood. Sarah broke down. She wrapped her arms around them both, sobbing into their fur. It was overwhelming, the loss, the reunion, the miracle of it all. They had found each other again, against all odds, against time, against fate itself. They had come home. Once Sarah had composed herself, she knew she had to do something special. That weekend, she threw a gotcha day party for Max and Buddy, a celebration of their miraculous reunion. She decorated the house with balloons and banners, inviting friends, family, and even some of the neighbors who had followed their journey. The centerpiece of the party, a giant dog-friendly cake, decorated with their names in peanut butter frosting. Max and Buddy couldn't contain their excitement. They ran around the backyard, tails wagging wildly, playing as if they were making up for all the lost time. When it was time to cut the cake, Sarah knelt beside them, her heart swelling with joy. "Happy Gotcha Day, boys," she said. her voice thick with emotion. "You were always meant to be together." Max and Buddy wagged their tails, their eyes gleaming with happiness. And in that moment, Sarah knew this was exactly how it was supposed to be. They weren't just two dogs. They were two halves of the same soul. And now, finally, they were whole again. Some stories warm the heart. Some bring tears to the eyes. And then there are those rare, extraordinary stories that make you stop and wonder, was this fate? Sarah's journey began with a simple evening walk, something she had done countless times before. She had no idea that within a matter of minutes, her entire life was about to change. She thought she was just rescuing a stray dog, offering him warmth, safety, and a meal. But what she really did was something far greater. She reunited a family. She mended a bond that should have never been broken. She turned tragedy into a miracle. If Sarah had walked down a different street that night, if Buddy had been just a little later rummaging through that trash can, if Max hadn't been standing right beside her, making her do a double take, would she have noticed Buddy at all? Would she have recognized the resemblance? Would the universe have still found a way to bring them back together? The very thought sent shivers down Sarah's spine. Life has a strange way of working. Sometimes it takes away, and sometimes it gives back in the most unexpected ways. Max and Buddy had been robbed of their time together. They had been separated before they even got the chance to grow up side by side, to create the memories that siblings are meant to share. Yet, against all odds, they found their way back to each other. And this time, nothing would separate them again. Sarah had always known that adopting or rescuing an animal was an act of kindness, but she had never imagined it could rewrite an entire story. Looking at Max and Buddy now, she realized just how fragile life could be. A single moment of carelessness, a door left unlocked, a thief looking for quick profit, had changed the course of their lives forever. But love had a way of correcting even the deepest wrongs. Sarah's story is proof that one person's decision can make all the difference. She could have ignored the stray dog that night. She could have walked past Buddy, assuming he was just another lost animal. But she didn't. And because of that, two brothers who were destined to be together finally found their way home. While this story had a happy ending, Sarah couldn't help but wonder, how many other dogs never get the chance to be reunited with their families? How many animals roam the streets, lost and scared, because they were never microchipped? How many pet owners spend years searching, hoping, praying that their beloved pet will somehow find its way back to them? Sarah's experience taught her something she would never forget. Microchipping isn't just a precaution, it's a lifeline. Had Buddy been microchipped, he might have been found much sooner. He wouldn't have had to struggle on the streets, scavenging for food, waiting for someone kind enough to stop and notice him. That's why Sarah made it her mission to spread awareness. She started encouraging her friends, family, and even her neighbors to get their pets microchipped. She joined local animal rescue groups, sharing Buddy's story as proof that small actions can lead to life-changing miracles. One tiny microchip could mean the difference between a family reunited and a pet lost forever. Sarah didn't just gain another dog when she brought Buddy home. She gained a piece of Max's heart that had been missing all along. The first time she saw them curl up together, their golden fur blending seamlessly, she knew Buddy had never been just another dog. He was home. He was family. Their bond went beyond biology. It was deeper than genetics, stronger than mere resemblance. Max and Buddy remembered each other. Maybe not in the way humans remember childhood memories, but in a way that was instinctive, unspoken, and undeniable. They moved together as if they had never been apart. They played, slept, and even breathed in sync. It was as if their hearts had been waiting for this reunion all along. Months passed, but the magic of their reunion never faded. Every single day, Sarah would catch herself smiling as she watched Max and Buddy chase each other around the yard. She would shake her head in wonder as they mirrored each other's movements, as if they shared a secret language only they understood. She no longer questioned whether fate had played a hand in their story. She knew, deep in her soul, that some things are simply meant to be. And Max and Buddy, they were always meant to find their way back to each other. No matter how long it took, no matter how impossible it seemed, they were meant to be together. And now, finally, they were. If this story touched your heart, Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss more incredible pet stories like this one.